What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the next episode in the bus build series. Let's look at where the kitchen is right now at the beginning of this video. Plumbing in the kitchen is done. Propane in the kitchen is done. All that's needed is the actual kitchen. So that's what we're gonna work on. I have a piece of plywood that is 3/4 inch thick, and I'm gonna cut that up to be my vertical partitions between each section of the kitchen. So on this end, we're gonna have one right here that's gonna be on the left side of the oven, one right here that's gonna be on the right side of the oven. Then we have some space, then one right here on the left side of the sink, one right here on the right side of the sink. So 4 vertical partitions. We may put a couple strips on here to be evenly heighted supports along there so that the counter will have support all the way edge to edge. And we may put one going up from this edge of the bed to meet the same height as the rest of the supports through here. Once that's in, we're gonna have a great idea as far as what the shape of this kitchen is gonna look like. Wow, look at this. I cut little slots in the tops of these dividers so that the sink actually sits recessed down flush with the top of these. So that way when I drop my counter on top, it's gonna go bam, just like that. And by cutting those edges into here, I was able to squeeze these 2 dividers as close as I could around the sink. Down here, once I do all the plumbing, that's going to be the biggest waste of space. There's just going to be pipes, you know? I can't put much of a trash can or storage or drawers or anything under here. So I wanted to make this gap as skinny as possible, which gives me more space here, as well as more space here, oven here, and then, you know, I'm trying to widen this as much as possible without taking away too much from here, but that's the idea. I have an exact measurement for the width here, and I'm going to cut some support strips out of these that'll go under this front edge of the sink and the back edge of the sink, as well as one in the back bottom corner. That'll be how I attach the whole assembly to the wall. So I have finally finished putting the kitchen cabinetry in. Now, it was a little bit of a trick getting everything as square as possible. Like I've said a million times in these videos, this bus is every angle on the spectrum except for 90 degrees. So getting square boxes meant that I had to build the assembly off of the wall and then put it against the wall and then just screw it in a couple places so that it's held strong. Rather than building everything based off of the wall. So this center box is where all my drawers are going to be, so I wanted that as square as possible. This one is pretty much square, this one's pretty much square, so then I had to connect those 2 in as even a way as I could. It's not perfect by any means, but it's pretty close. That meant that this whole central setup was all stuck together, but that also meant that I sacrificed the squareness of this end box as well as this end box. These are both going to have, well, this one may have a door just because it's so tight against the bed, but this may have a door and then storage for tall things, or, you know, like a couple shelves in there. But this one hopefully will be one of those vertical style pull-out pantries. The whole thing will pull out, and then there's going to be a couple racks like with spices or mason jars or whatever in there. So that's the, close that, that's the idea for there. My buttons are hanging out because I think that my countertop is going to be thick enough that I could even implant them in the edge. So instead of on the surface here, they'd be on the edge surface here, which would be extra handy, just right there. Bop, bop, hit some buttons just like that, and then it keeps the surface of the counter really clean. That's my thought there. We'll see when I get my countertop. But this is all in there. It's rock solid. If I yank on it, it shakes the whole bus, which, you know, that's not going anywhere. It's got like 6 screws through the whole assembly that are holding it to, you know, a couple in the floor, a couple in the wall. It's not going anywhere. In the meantime, I'm gonna start working on the tall cabinet that's going in this corner because I need to build that before I start on my dinette. And if I'm taking a trip in December, I gotta have a chair with a seatbelt so Evelina can come along. So that's what I'm working on next, is this tall cabinet. That's gonna mean more perfect curve cutting to get my ceiling nailed down, which It's kind of a pain in the butt, but I gotta do it. So that's what I'm working on now. Gonna go cut my pieces for the plywood and get that in. So I put in the closet. It's by nowhere means finished right now. I did put in the outlet before I built this wall because that skinny gap, trying to install an outlet would be a pain in the butt. But I'm gonna have some sort of shelf partway down here for our trip in December. I'm gonna put a dowel up here so we can just hang like our winter jackets so that, you know, we're not stuffing those in some other spots that take up a ton of space. So this arrangement of how it's gonna work is gonna be pretty temporary. And at some point in the next couple months, we'll get a much better system for inside that closet. So, as you can see here on the ground, I have started working on the first dinette seat that is coming off of this closet, which is very exciting. However, it's a little bit of a complicated piece to build because everything's got to be thought out just perfectly. So let me show you what I've drawn up so far. So this is looking from this side, and I've calculated the measurements for how to get the right angle for the seat back, how high it needs to go, how far off of the closet it needs to be to make what should be a comfortable chair. So on top of this box, I'm going to build this back, this trapezoidal shaped piece that's going to go over here. But first, we need to add some support along this back wall so that when this is going to open and close so that I can have storage underneath here. But so when this is closed, that side has support. So that's what we're going to start with, is building some support for that side against the wall, and then from there we're going to build that trapezoidal box that's going to go as the back of the chair. I threw together this quick support piece on that far side. It needed to be this wide because if I'm going to have this chair open, again, just like I had problems on the other side with the bed, this wall angles in so that the piece that opens can only be, you know, go this far, otherwise it's going to pinch right here. So it comes out a ways, but if we set that there, we test it out. There we go. Got a platform for chair number 1. Now comes the tricky part, is building the back to the right specs and the right shape. So I've got to go measure a bunch of angles and start putting that together. Let's build a trapezoid for that back piece. Right now I have all of my pieces cut. They're all loose and sitting here. I have the back of the chair. This bottom edge is cut to 15 degrees. This top edge is cut to the same 15 degrees. That way, my piece that goes along the top edge will be parallel to the seat bottom, and it'll be 90 degrees to the seat back. So that's the top piece of the trapezoid. Here's the back of the chair, and then down here we have the part of the bottom of the chair that's going to be anchored to the base, not hinged. So this is going to sit back here in the back corner, and I'm going to screw this down first. And then I'm going to take these two, screw them together, sand them up a little bit, and then we'll put it all right in here. Yes! Now that I've got that first dinette chair in, I can build pretty much the mirror image of it over here. The one tricky part about this side is that there's a totally different back end. Like, it's open. So I've had to decide between whether I build a flat back and have a little bit of storage in the backrest, just like that one, or I have an open concave back so that by the door and the stairs there's a little bit of storage there. I don't know, you can put some hat hooks or, you know, some spot for an extra pair of shoes or something like that. It was a toss-up for me. I think I've decided to go with the open back model so that on that side, as you're walking in the door, there's a little bit of cubby storage. So yesterday we had a very successful day here in the bus building both of these dinette chairs. That one went in pretty easy, not too bad. This one was a little bit more complicated figuring out what was going on the back side because it didn't have just a nice wall like that one did. But here's what I've come up with. When I initially cut this side piece, it was full length all the way to match the door, but then this corner was sticking out so far that, you know, passing through here, that was just gonna bang your hip. Smash, smash, every time. So what I decided to do is to take the same gap that is here, match it to the top of that one right here, but then after those 2 inches, put a 45-degree chamfer on this back side of the cabinet. That way it's just much easier to transition as you're moving in and out around this corner. So the last part of this whole build on this side, like the bulk build, you know, painting and whatever, the finish work still has to be done, but the last part is figuring out how we go from here to the wall. Now I have this big stud in here, so that's what my wood is going to get attached to, that comes out this way. You know, and this is going to be a flat piece here, this cabinet. I'm going to leave a door opening here so you can access the back side of this cabinet from here for now. You know, so a whole bunch of little things to keep in mind. And then this right here, this is going to get framed up going up here as well to conceal the rest of this. Alright, so I spent a chunk of time measuring it back and forth, drawing out and cutting a shape that is going to fill this space, but also go all the way up and trim out this edge. And this is what I've come up with. It's going to start at the bottom step, follow the steps, go up, and then this is where the main floor hits. This opening is for a little cabinet door that can open up and access tall storage in the back of the chair. There's my outlet, there's my light switch, there's the top of the back of the chair, and then it goes all the way up. So let's throw this in there and see how it fits and try screw it in. So that piece went in. There's a little bit of a glitch at the transition of one of the steps. I'm not sure what happened there. I must have measured like an inch off or something. But I can fill that with a chunk later when I finish out the steps, which may not be till January. We'll see how things go with the rest of the bus. But that piece is in. The back of the chair looks pretty snazzy. I gotta do a bunch of wood filler in the screw holes as well as the cracks right at the joints. But once it's filled, sanded, painted, I think this whole unit is gonna look super good. So I'm excited about that. Next, we're gonna put a piece on the top, and then that chair is gonna be more or less done besides the finish work. And that is it for this episode. We got a ton of work done in this week and in this video. The kitchen is roughed in. We got this closet put in, it's painted, so this is probably the most finished aspect. And we got these dinette chairs in. Like I just mentioned, there's a lot of wood filler and a lot of sanding that still has to be done, but I'm gonna move on to a couple other pieces of rough building and construction style stuff before we get too deep into the finished work on some of these other areas. So in the next video, you'll see us put in the kitchen upper cabinet, as well as the wall that's gonna go here at this end of the kitchen, as well as starting to finish up some of these boxes here, like the face piece for this cabinet, and as well as the boxes for these cabinet doors. This thing's coming together. There's a couple more big, rough wood building kind of construction tasks, and once we get past those, it's gonna be finished work. We're gonna be painting, we're gonna be filling, we're gonna be sanding. It's gonna start looking really crisp and clean in here, not like a work zone. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Stay tuned in the next couple of days. Keep checking that Instagram because that's where I put the daily updates as to what I'm working on. And I thank you for watching this video. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button down below and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next couple videos as the bus starts getting wrapped up. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.